guys, what's up? Back for another unboxing, and quick note, because this is not the latest unboxing I've done. So I did another unboxing about a week or so ago that was a technical nightmare. I just screwed it up on every level. You noticed in my unboxings, the audio, there was some sort of issue with it. I figured out it's probably just a software thing because the camera and mic are actually good. I've been using the Logitech software that came with the camera, and something about it, no matter what I did with the settings, it would mess up the audio. But this one was even worse because I think I did something wrong where the frame rate is screwed up. So like the first couple minutes of that video, it doesn't run smoothly or anything. And the whole thing is I didn't want to upload it, but part of me thinks I should just because it's important, even though it'd be kind of a pain to listen to, and it's a longer one. So this is just a little heads up that maybe I will upload that one anyway, and just give people a warning of how messed up and bad it is. I think everything's fixed now. I'm using a different software, and I did a test and it seemed to work out. So we'll jump into this unboxing, which I'm excited about, because it's a little different from other ones. For one thing, it's something that I've wanted for many years and just sort of put off, and it was an important part of my life. So this is actually an eBay package. It's been a while since I bought anything on eBay. So I don't even know if I need scissors or anything. I should be able to just tear into this without it being too much of a disaster. So, stronger tape than it looks. Okay. I'm going to be a little careful here. I don't care about the package. It just... Yes, there we go. So, what have we got? This is EGM number 65. Wow, it's in pretty good condition, too. I mean, yeah, a little frayed here and there, but not bad, considering this is the December 94 issue. And I'm fairly certain this is the first EGM I ever read. Now, sometime, I think in early 97, maybe even late 96, I started getting EGM monthly. I never subscribed. I simply would just buy it at the newsstand every month. And I've got well over 100 of them. Some of them are here in Halifax with me. Some of them are back in Sydney at my parents' house. And they're in varying degrees of condition. None are that too bad. But this is the first one. And Ryan actually owned this. I think it's just one he sort of randomly bought. I don't even know if he had his Nintendo Power subscription yet. But, this is 94. So this is when we're starting to really get into video games. And this was just life-changing for me. So as you can see, the cover there is a really good Super Nintendo game. A game that I never owned, but rented multiple times. This is X-Men Mutant Apocalypse, which is really a great sort of side-scrolling beat-em-up where you get to do a mission to Genosha, and you get to play as the characters here. Actually, Psylocke seems to have been bumped off the cover because you got Gambit, Beast, Wolverine, Cyclops, and Apocalypse in the background, but the other playable character, and only female, is Psylocke, which is too bad. What's on the back here? A special joystick for the thing. So this is also, as you can see, pretty hefty. This is EGM's biggest issue ever. It is like over 400 pages long. And this was life-changing for me because almost everything in here fascinated me because there was so much. This is, again, pre-internet. This is the fall of 1994. And, I'm reading this probably around that time or maybe early 95. I borrowed it from, the thing was, right, I poured through it at Ryan's house. Eventually, he let me borrow it, and I never gave it back to him, and it literally, fell apart because I dragged it around and read it. I'll try to be careful with this one, which I paid a decent price for on on eBay. But, for instance, here's the whole thing. This taught me so much. Again, this is pre-internet, right? So this really opened my eyes because there's a big emphasis in this magazine in particular on, import stuff and stuff from Japan. This is the first Dragon Ball stuff I ever saw about this game. I didn't know the show. The show had not yet come to North America. Didn't know the manga, of course. Just knew there was a fighting game with some interesting characters. And what's funny is I remember when each one would talk about various characters, it would show, the Saiyans. It would show most of the Saiyans in their Super Saiyan forms. So I can remember, the very first time I saw Vegeta on the show, I didn't understand why his hair wasn't yellow. I was like, I know he had yellow hair. I didn't even know about the forms. But there's just so much stuff in here. And, so yeah, this goes through it. It talks about all the different characters. But that's just one little thing. And I don't have time to show everything. Just sort of random going through. But the other big thing that I have to find is the most life-changing thing of all. Was there's a feature in here about my favorite game of all time, Final Fantasy III. Also known as Final Fantasy VI. But Final Fantasy III, where it's a Super Nintendo release in North America. Because I was fascinated, again, because I hadn't played an RPG before at this point. And I just didn't really understand what that would entail. Look at this, speaking of RPGs, here's an ad for Lunar the Silver Star, which is just like the trope maker and codifier for so many JRPGs to follow. This is, of course, the Sega CD release as it came out. A Boundless Love Story, an Epic Adventure, an instant classic only on Sega CD. So I never played the original version, but I played Silver Star Story Complete, the upgraded version that came out, I think, around 97 or 98 on the PlayStation 1. But again, this is before the PlayStation was even out. So this also introduced me to so much, not just all these Japanese concepts and things that I didn't know about, but also what's sometimes known, I think, is like, is it the fourth? Yeah, because if Super Nintendo and the Genesis and stuff is the fourth generation, and you say that PlayStation and N64 and Saturn is the fifth generation. Sometimes what's known as the fourth and a half generation is the in-between stuff, although I think it counts as the fourth, which is the 3DO and the Atari Jaguar. These are things I did not know existed. They were not in stores. So here's the press start. At this point, the Saturn has just been launched in Japan, but has not come out here yet. So there's some early details here. Maybe I should check the masthead or there must be a table of contents so I can find what I'm looking for. Oh, I love this ad. I actually had this torn out. I had this ad torn out and like hanging on my bedroom for years. Final Fantasy 3. It doesn't seem fair, does it, with Moog or Mog or whatever you want to call them there, the removal. Yeah. Okay, there is a table of a special feature. I don't know. Anyway, I just cannot wait to pour through all this from cover to cover, because I remember this is like one of the only gaming magazines where just every single word in it meant something to me. Even stuff about games I didn't know anything about, or that. This just opened up so much to me. I just didn't know. Look, oh my god, here's an ad for Shaq Fu. Are you kidding me? Shaq Fu. There might have been some stuff on the making of Shaq Fu in this one, if I'm remembering correctly. So let's see if I can find the stuff. You know, I don't want to just pour through this, but I just want to point out some of the more important things that mattered to me at the time. Next Wave. Some stuff about some 3DO stuff, but I want to find the Final Fantasy thing, because there's a big thing about Final Fantasy 3. It's like kind of a playthrough guide. Oh, for instance, here's a game that I rented like immediately afterwards and loved so much. Jurassic Park 2, The Chaos Continues, which is sort of a Contra-esque game, which I do now own. I've owned for quite a few years. I don't have the box or anything, but I have the Super Nintendo cartridge. But so I think it maybe is in this section, because these are like sort of helpful guides. This whole stuff, it tells you sort of what you're going to deal with. So that's very expansive. So there's got Wolverine Adamantium Rage, which I'm dying to play again. Another game that I rented several times and played the hell out of and really enjoyed. That was a really solid Wolverine game. It's also cool because like it really was following whatever was sort of current in the comics at the time. Shinobi Shaw is in there. We've got Bloodscream, the weird vampire guy. Geist. Here's a fight with them. Here's the fight with Bloodscream and Geist. I remember this. Oh, I love this stuff. This was a great, great game that I wish I could play again. Okay, I'm going to skip past some of this stuff. Kirby. Wow, a game based on the Shadow of it, that shit. But where I'm not hallucinating, there is a section about Final Fantasy 3 in here. Oh, here's another one. So once again, like this was really the beginning of my fascination with Japan and all things Japan. Just the crazy world that was over here. So what is this? K, or maybe Kai, Flying Squadron. Some sort of shooter that, I don't even know what system this is supposed to be on. But it's amazing. And this was just sort of like we're so used to it now, especially the last 20 years. There's so much stuff about manga and anime and stuff. But this, in 1994, to me, was bonkers. This shooter where you're like a girl in a Playboy bunny outfit, riding along, shooting at monsters and things. Like, this really was another world to me. And again, this was not something that came out over here later. And there's pages and pages about it. Dark Side, I don't know what that is, but... and this was one of the only 3DO games I ever played, and it's a great game. What's it called? Return Fire, which is like a military strategy game where you control various vehicles on a map. It's kind of like a capture the flag game. It's one of the only 3DO games I ever got to play, and I only got to play it for one afternoon, but it is a really good game. Getting into some of these like CD-ROM type games, those FMV games that at the time were starting to emerge and everybody thought was going to be like the future of gaming. But just everything in here is gold. I love it so much, and I can't believe how big this issue is. EGM would never even, as far as I know, ever approach this level in length for an issue again. Oh, Flashback, another game that I would wind up owning on Super Nintendo eventually. Let's go right over there. We're not going to drag it out. Flashback. I think, and this had multiple things, including a 3DO release. I think it was on Genesis, Super Nintendo, and 3DO. So I was really fascinated by this 3DO. And at the time, I thought 3DO was made by Panasonic. Because I didn't understand. 3DO was the company, but as far as the hardware for making the system went, they gave it to various manufacturers, and Panasonic was just one of them. For a while, I thought it was just the same thing as a Sony PlayStation, and that was Panasonic 3DO. I didn't understand. But 3DO was the company, and it was different electronics people making that. I will let you go in a second because we don't have time for me to jump. I probably maybe should have. That's the thing about doing an unboxing, right? I don't remember anything. You're just taking it out. It's all spontaneous. Otherwise, I would have marked off pages. Oh, here's a big thing about Shaq Fu. I would have marked off specific pages so I could get to them in a more organized fashion and not just bounce around and be at lost at sea here. But I just want to find the Final Fantasy 3 thing, and then we'll go. But I cannot stress enough just how much it means to me to have. I know it's just a magazine, but to have this issue, because it really was life-changing for me. It really moved me into the world of, happy kid. I was, 10 or 11 years old playing Nintendo games and stuff, to wanting to be a more serious gamer. And EGM itself would have a huge impact on my life in other ways. It's a little personal, so we won't get into it. But it definitely formed a lot of ideas and goals and things in my head at the time that shaped my life for a while. So here's some of the cover story, Mutant Apocalypse. Beautiful, bright, colorful game, really satisfying game. I watched a playthrough on YouTube of it just a week or so ago. It was really satisfying to see it. I've beaten the game, but I haven't beaten it with all the characters. Here we go. So finally, there's a really big section here devoted to Final Fantasy 3. And I hadn't played a Final Fantasy before, hadn't even played it really an RPG before, and I was captivated by all these captions and these things, this world map. There's a part where they're talking about fighting people, and I remember, I'm not going to get into it, but it's giving you some advice about how to deal with somebody. It's like, and it says something like, this character should use this, while the other should just focus on attacking. And I just remember that kind of blew my mind, because I didn't even understand what it meant to control multiple characters at once. So it was very soon after this that either Ryan or I first rented it, and the game just took over our lives. And to this day, all these years later, nearly 30 years later, the game is still my favorite game of all time. Final Fantasy VII is probably in second. I'm very excited and interested in the remake stuff. But this is the game. I just love it so much. So we'll let it go. But this magazine, just every bit of it, look, this explains spells and everything. It's very in-depth. But I'm just so thrilled to have this magazine and take good care of it, so this one doesn't fall apart on me. But I was really happy to finally get around to it, because for years I would see various old EGMs on sale on eBay and lots and things, and when I finally saw this one, I thought, it's time to pull the trigger, it's time to go. So I'm just really thrilled. EGM, to me, they were, hands down, in their day, they were head and shoulders above the gaming, the other video game magazines. Actually, I did have a subscription to Next Generation, which I got because when I bought my PlayStation, it gave me like either 6 months or 12 months free of it, and then I just kept it up for a few years. I didn't really like Next Generation at the time. Looking back now, I like it because it was sort of more of an adult-geared magazine than some of the more kidsy ones like a Nintendo Power or a GamePro. It really focused on things like what was going on in the industry, and at the time I wasn't interested in that, but now of course I am. It's very fascinating to read articles about game developers and publishers and all the business side of it. But at the time I wasn't. So I have a ton of those as well too. But to me, EGM, they were the top. I read some GamePro, I read some GameFam, I read Nintendo Power at Ryan's house, but EGM to me, they were the best. I trusted them. I purchased games based on their reviews, and it rarely let me down. I won't go into it. I don't even know who was working here at the time. I was more used to the era kind of after this. Like I said, it was maybe about 2 or 3 years later that I started getting them. Crispin Boyer was one, Sean Smith another, and of course the mysterious Sushi X. I'm talking about the reviewers and editors and people that put the magazine together. Let's see if I'll just look at the masthead really quick here. See how many names I recognize. Yeah, see, this is back in the day. I don't recognize most of these. This is before the people that I knew. They got Sushi X here. But I really don't know. And of course, Ed Simrad, for years, was the editor-in-chief. But, a lot of these names here, I don't know them, because they were gone by the time I started collecting the magazine. But, anyway. Just thrilled. I'm so thrilled to have this. Can't wait to pour through it entirely. But anyway, hopefully that will turn out. So, as again, another reminder, I might still put up the other unboxing, because unlike this one, the reason why I want to put it up is because it could be a springboard into other videos that are, not unboxings, but sort of a series talking about stuff. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, thanks so much. EGM number 65, December 94. So cool. So happy to finally have it again, to be reunited. So thanks a lot, guys, for watching, and I'll be back soon with something or other, and maybe I will try to salvage that disaster of an unboxing beforehand. But anyway, thanks a lot. That's it for now. Peace. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.